Okay, what's going on?
Okay. Okay, yeah, so we're going to be having a little bit of some sound interruptions in the background because the venue has safety announcements that are coming through in Spanish, and I hope it doesn't interfere with our sound. So today what we're going to be doing is I will be doing a screen share on the settings page for the LXP. We'll be using an installer account so that you guys can pick up on exactly what we do. And Mama will be operating the camera on the machines.
Yeah.
But I think for a start, Mama, why don't you take the viewers around our stand and show them what we've got and maybe do some good introductions while I set up the...
Okay. Let me switch the camera. See, Andy is here. Busy with the laptop. You want me to open the laptop?
Yeah, just open up the...
Then you use this one and then not now.
But the last one is...
Okay. You log into your own once. And look of the booth we have here in Nala show in Madrid. This is the new SNA 6K you've been waiting for, and this is the AC couple we're selling mostly in Europe. Sorry, the lights goes like this. Andy, check the lights.
Yeah, that's the LED flicker.
Okay.
Yeah.
The AC couple units we've been selling in Europe, where they used to retrofit their old solar system to add the battery. So you do not need to buy a full hybrid units. You just buy the AC couple and battery. And this is what you guys are familiar with, the 10K and the 12K. And here on this side is your favorite package, which is the hybrid 5K and power jam. And this is our new model for 3-phase, 6 to 20K. This is the one you install the most as a 5K. This is the models we're displaying in Spain, and next month end of this month we're going to have another show in Italy, Rimini, for the K Energy, and March will be big in Johannesburg.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it, right?
Yeah. So you ready to show?
Yeah.
You want to go for the settings first, and then we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's
so
flip
should
the
I?
camera around, yeah.
Okay.
So you can maybe just hold it like, well, you're gonna have to. Let's do this. Let's put the camera on my laptop so that.
Okay. Perfect.
All right, and you need to share that screen.
Okay.
Wow. So there we are live with a screen. So guys, so today what we've decided to do is we're going to be using a can we minimize this? Yeah. So today we're going to be using an installer account so that it mirrors exactly what you guys can see on your side. Right, so remember today we're doing the LXP5. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to read the station. I'm sure you guys all know this by now. And you will find a significant difference.
We've actually alerted folks that we're going to be 30 minutes late. So it's not yet that time that we can start. So some of them probably going to be entered by that time.
Okay, so why don't we just talk about some stuff like we ran a poll yesterday. Where's the camera? Put us on camera so that people can see us.
Where is it? Maybe I stop here.
Yeah. Will that work?
Yeah.
Oops.
What did you do?
I don't know.
Then I stop sharing the screen for now, so people can see us.
So Mama's actually brought up quite a valid point. The venue that we're in at the moment, remember we're in Spain and that's not going to work. Mama actually brought up a valid point. The venue that we're in at the moment is in Spain, and Spain is 1 hour behind South African time. So when we originally posted the time of 10 a.m., that would be 9 a.m. for us. So we got up really early and we got across here in the Uber. But when we got to the venue doors, unfortunately, it was still locked and they only let us in at 10 a.m. So some quick thinking on Mama's part was to delay the training by at least 30 minutes.
Sorry.
So she's brought up a valid point in that we are going to wait for another couple of minutes to allow other attendees to join. But in the meantime, what we'd like to talk to you about is we're just going to sort of run some studio chat here to keep it going. Yesterday, we ran a poll on our tech support WhatsApp line on the two tech support groups, and that was aimed specifically at the installers. And we're going to use that platform to gauge interest in some new products that we're going to be launching. And one in particular is the all-in-one SNA, which is the 6 kilowatt SNA with a all-in-one battery. And the option one is the 5.12. And I know some of you are thinking a 5.1 kilowatt battery with a 6 kilowatt SNA is a bit undersized. Yes, you are right. But from a price point, you might have clients who are interested in that particular product. And the great thing is that it can be expanded, right?
Yes. Buy one for now and add another one later.
Okay, so there you go. So if you do sell the SNA 6 with one battery, at a later stage, your client can upgrade it to a SNA with 10.24. And then we're also bringing in the other options. So the authorized importer of the LuxPower products in South Africa has given us the go-ahead to bring in a sample range that we can distribute. We can sell directly to the distributors. They will dictate the price, but it's just for us to bring in a sample range so that you guys can have access to it and start doing your trials. The product will be sold. It'll be sold at the listed price that the importer decides, and installers will not be able to buy from us directly. You still have to go via your normal channels, which is via your distributor or directly from the importer if you're buying in that channel. We don't want to upset any markets. But the poll was basically just to see what the interest was, because Mau needs to decide how many machines to make for us, right?
We actually only have 20.
We only have 20.
Yeah, the first batch is only 20 units available for the testing for the not actually for end users yet, for the distributors and installers who are interested.
Okay.
So they can test the sample and see how it goes, say what size installers or users will prefer to use, and then that could help us to decide later which tag we can proceed in the bulk order.
Okay. And then one of the other things that I picked up on the chat yesterday was that a lot of guys are also champing at the bit for the new 6 kilowatt SNA. So what can you tell us about that, Mama? The 6 kilowatt with CT option. When is that arriving?
It's actually already in transit. I think it will arrive before the solar show.
Before the 18th?
Yeah, we expect the container to dock before the solar show. So you will soon have the 6K if you want to. And the 6K, the order is a lot more than the all-in-one. So you're free to order anytime when.
Yeah, so maybe get your pre-orders in, get your interest up, chat to your clients, let them know that the 6 kilowatt will be available before Transnet and port authorities. We're holding thumbs that it will be available before the Solar Africa show on the 18th to the 20th of March in Sandton. But we will definitely be displaying at the show. We're going to display the new 6 kilowatt, new Trip 20.
Oh yeah, the Trip 20 is definitely a new model we're going to launch. But the 6K, this SNA 6K is actually exactly the same look, except the CT is included in the box, and the output power and the input PV power is actually increasing. So you cannot tell by the look of it whether it's a 5 or 6.
So a 5 and a 6 next to each other, you can't tell the difference unless you look at the side sticker. And Mama, a very good question. I'm sure somebody's asked, will the machine come standard with a CT clamp, or do they have to buy that as an extra? It's included.
And you're get ready to fit into the non-essential mode after you install the CP.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's already NRS certified, keep tongue listed.
There you go. That's a lot of pre-thinking that we've done. So the new SNA 6 and the 5, as a matter of fact, are NRS certified. The 5, unfortunately, doesn't come with a CD clamp, but the 6 does. So it is certified for grid connection and feedback. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, that's good.
It's the only eco hybrid or off-grid model that can do that on that level.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
Okay, so while we wait, how much time have we got? We've got 9 minutes left.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to talk to them about some developments on. Are you allowed to?
On the Power Jam?
Yeah, I know.
I think folks already quite familiar with the Power Jam, the premium function with LuxPower, how you can remote update or remote restart or get a remote access to most of the details of the battery, the voltage, the current charging, discharging, and also even the cycles, the cell level monitoring are available on LuxPower portal and for free. Other than that, the premium functions, you also get to extend the warranty, the LuxPower warranty for free. So if you pair the SNA with high-net battery, you get 6 months more for free. If you're using a hybrid LuxPower inverter, you get 5 years more for free. So it's a standard 5-year warranty for hybrid series. But if you're using with high-net, you get 10 years for free. I think that helps a lot of the installers and end users when they're deciding or considering the warranty point of view.
Okay. And another question. When will we be able to buy the 14.3?
Oh, it's also on, I think it's already being ordered by our importer, and then we are, since you know now is
Chinese
New Year, so factory can only get these orders ready in March. So we will starting ship in March, and by end of April, we hope container will dock. But considering the customers of South Africa, maybe we can expect in May. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, but we will keep you updated. So the new what do we call it? We call it the Power Beast, right? No,
it's
Power Gem. Oh, Power Gem Plus. Sorry, the SNA 6 is the Beast.
No. The all-in-one is Eco Beast.
Oh, Eco Beast.
Because it comes with the Eco Hybrid SNA and with super wonderful high-net battery. So then the mix of them is Eco Beast.
Eco Beast. My, we're certainly having fun choosing names for the machines. All right, so there you have it, straight from the manufacturer. Is the new 14.3 is going into production, and it will certainly be available. We're hoping by April, right?
Oh, what? Which
the
one?
14.3.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah. We're also hoping that the port authorities would play along with us. Okay, so I think it's quite safe for us to start venturing into the training now. We only have 6 minutes left. The session is recorded, so
yes,
people who do join late.
So the recording just recorded our talk the whole time.
Yeah.
That's not necessary.
Oh well, they can fast forward. This is the new technology. All right.
Okay. Let me share the screen again.
Okay.
You can sit over here.
Okay.
When you leave, I will just move the camera. So for now, I will disable the camera.
Okay. All right, guys. So here we have the settings page for a LXP. This is the LXP 5. And what you will notice is that the settings page changes as we go up in size. So the 5 kilowatt has got a unique settings page, right? So this particular site has an LXP 5. The common settings are pretty much the same. And let me just do another read on the site, because I want to make sure that we're still connected.
Yes, we do.
Okay. I was waiting for the thing to populate. We are operating on the show's Wi-Fi. So, all right. So on the remote settings page, I'm going to focus on last week we spoke particularly on this block here, the time block. The time block is determined by when you set up your station originally and you register the dongle, you select the region and the time zone. That is the time that will go in here. Make sure that you also uncheck the daylight saving, especially in South Africa. We do not have daylight saving, so you're going to have to uncheck that so that you can get accurate times. All right. Standard, we have CT metering. And this particular site has a lead acid battery. It's 150 amp hours. Right. So this particular button here, the neutral detect, this is a handy button to have. The feature on the LXP means that it can measure elevated voltage between neutral and earth on the utility supply. So get that. Let me explain that. So from your municipal feed, it will measure for elevated voltage between neutral and earth. In other words, if you do not have an earth feed coming in, or if there's no bonding from the municipal side, if you enable it, what it'll do is if the voltage goes above 15 volts, that's 15 volts on the incoming, the difference in the potential between neutral and earth, then it will raise an alarm. That's what this particular feature here is for. It's very handy. Just remember that if you enable it, you have to have done your tests prior to enabling that to make sure that you're not getting nuisance fault errors here. The restart button, that's quite self-explanatory. If you press that, it will restart the inverter. Here on the CT sample ratio, you have 1 in 1,000 and 1 in 3,000. It's shipped standard with 1 in 1,000 as a default, and that is because the CT clamp that we use, which is supplied by an external supplier, is a 1 in 1,000 sample ratio. So please do not change this unless, of course, you are changing your CT. And the only time you will change your CT clamp is if you are installing your CT at a much further distance away from the machine, longer than what the cable is. So, for instance, you might have your sampling point 100 meters away from the machine itself, and you're going to put in a different CT. Then typically we would go to a 1 in 3,000 sample. All right. On the application setting here, just remember that power backup, you have to enable this, because if you do not enable it, it simply means that if you hold the cursor over the question mark here, it simply means that the EPS output will be uninterrupted. All right. So guys, when you're setting up the speed, and I know that the SNA is the most popular seller, but the reason I love the LXP is because, number one, it's the big daddy, it's the Adam, it's the genesis of LuxPower in South Africa. What I love about the machine is it's a true hybrid in the sense that it can perform all its functions simultaneously. The chassis of the machine let's just go across here. The chassis of the machine.
Wait a minute, let me open the camera.
Is the microphone on there or on the? Here. Okay.
Okay.
The chassis of the machine, the cover, the back chassis, everything about it is pressed aluminium, even the skirt, and then the connections are unlike the SNA, where you have to wire the connections into the machine. Here you get a plug. The plug is pre-wired. It's marked grid for the AC input, and it can only fit in one way. So you cannot cross your neutral and your live. Same thing goes for the EPS output. The EPS plug doesn't fit into the SNA, into the AC in, and the AC in or the grid supply doesn't fit into the EPS plug. So once you read the top here and you connect your wires inside correctly, it's simply a matter of putting the plug right in here. And then from a serviceability point of view, if you need to do any maintenance on the machine or do any changes, it's a very quick. As a matter of fact, we've timed it where we can get the machine changed within 20 minutes. Not that the LXP5 ever needs to be changed. It's one of the most robust machines. All right, so if you have a look underneath here, you will also have the communication terminals, or what we call the interface board. So you have your battery communication there. It's got a dual row of dip switches. The top is for your country or the region that you're in, and we typically don't change that because you can do the settings on the machine. And then the bottom one, as you guys know, we used to have a red dip and a blue dip. So the new LXP5s come with a blue dip, which means we've changed the CAN communication from it used to be 3 and 4, and it's now 4 and 5 for CAN low and CAN high.
Wait a minute, I close the sharing so people can see our camera. Okay, go.
So do we have to do that over again?
If you want.
Yeah.
Minutes. Okay, please.
Okay, so we were talking a little bit earlier, and I'll just go over it again. LXP5, it's a pressed aluminium cover. The top is pressed aluminium. The chassis is aluminium. The heat sink, it's got a massive heat sink in here, which we can actually turn the. So the cooling.
Oh, you can see the heat sink.
Yeah, the cooling of the machine is done by a heat sink. There is no cooling fans on here, so it's a silent machine. If ever you need to put it into an application where you cannot have, number one, where the humidity is high or it's a high dust environment, or even outdoors, this is going to be the machine for you. Right, even down to the screws are corrosion resistant screws. And all in all, it's a very, very robust machine. The only drawback, the only drawback about this machine is the fact that it on EPS, it can only put out 4 kilowatts on battery.
Which we're going to also improve and introduce a new generation of the 5K, which gives solid 5 kilowatt output.
Okay, will that come with fans on the heatsink or no fans?
I think yes.
We're not sure. All right.
Yeah.
I think we're not sure.
Yeah.
All right. And then if you come around to the bottom of the machine here now, then I'm just going to put the battery here for you like this.
Okay.
So earlier on, we were talking about the plugs to wire up the LXP5. It's simple. It comes with a set of plugs in the box. One is marked the grid. You simply open it up here and you wire up you do your house wiring straight into here. So you've got your live, your neutral, and earth. It is marked on the top where to go. And the cool thing about this is once the plug is wired correctly, you cannot put it in incorrectly. The plug only fits in one way. And this here is a locking nut. It kind of pulls the plug into the port and locks it into place, which is a great feature. So once that's in, you can lock it into place. The EPS plug is not marked, and it's also a different plug to this one. The design, the sliders means that this plug will not fit into the EPS port, and this plug will not fit into the grid supply port. And that's a great thing. It's a safety feature that we've built in, which means that the installers or the installer assistants cannot make a mistake with wiring the input into the output or the output into the input. Right, and then underneath here, we have the interface board, which you guys are very familiar with. You have your battery communication. The LXP5 comes with 2 rows of dip switches. The top one is for your country or region. So for instance, with South Africa, with the NRS rule, that will be set there and the settings are in the book. Below that, you have your dip switch. This one is blue. You guys are familiar with the old red ones and the blue. So the blue ones are now with the CAN communication, where we're running your CAN on pin 4 and 5. This one is for the CT meter. And with the LXP, you cannot do the installation without the CT. The machine will work without the CT, but the display it won't work 100%. And also the sampling won't be great. So whenever you install an LXP5, the 5, the 10, or the 12, you have to install the CT clamp that comes supplied.
Remember, we do have some installers came to us not find the CT in the box, but it turns out they just threw it away. They didn't know they must install the CT.
Yeah.
And then the box was throwing away.
Yeah.
So later they found the display was not proper, and they said why. Then we responded that you must install the CT, but they said where was the CT?
Yeah.
And in the box, but then they already threw away the box.
You know where the CT is? The CT is with the manual, because that's the first thing that gets thrown away, the operating manual.
So all the installers, you must check everything in your box and install the necessary parts properly. Then you get the system to running well.
Correct. Yeah. So each machine that is shipped, the top tray of the machine comes with all of the parts. Inside there, you'll find your CT clamp. You'll find the set of plugs. You'll find your battery lugs in there. You'll find the battery shrouds. You'll find the rub boots that go inside here as well. There is a set of MC4 connectors. And all of the screws.
Yes.
And there's also a dongle. Yeah, that's also a thing that gets thrown away. My machine never shipped with a dongle. Yes, it did. Because when the machines are packed, the dongle serial number, we take the serial numbers are printed in duplicate. So one sticker goes on the white box of the dongle and the other sticker goes on the brown box on the outside. So you can actually see the dongle's sticker is on there, and that means it has been shipped. All right, so let's focus underneath here again. So we've gone through the interface board. right next to, so here we have your CT, and then these two are the parallel ports, right? So when you're paralleling an LXP5 in either single phase or three-phase configuration, this is what you're going to be using, your parallel ports. And just remember that here we have, in the past, we used to mark these INV and DSP, but I see they've marked them parallel now. So it works the very same. It's a CAN bus node, all right? So if you have one machine, no need for this. If you have two machines, you're going to go from this port out, and you'll come into that port on the second machine, right? So you're creating a loop. And then the dip switches here for paralleling, you have to put both machines on. If you have three machines, then the first machine on the left will have the dip switches on, the middle machine will have the dip switches off, and the end machine will have the dip switches on. Once again, you're going to be using the CAN bus, the CAN cables or the parallel cables that are supplied in the machine. In the top tray, there are there's a set of two cables. One is in a plastic sleeve, that's your parallel cable, and the one that's not in a sleeve is the battery communication cable. So it's marked BATCOM, and the other one is marked parallel. Don't throw them away. We've pre-wired them specifically for the LXP5. All right, the plug on the left here is DRM. This is basically demand response mode. It's not functional in South Africa yet, but in countries like Australia, where the local authorities, like the state, they can communicate with your inverter via the DRM, and it simply means that they can control your machine. In other words, when it can charge from the grid, when not charge from the grid, and that kind of thing. But I'm not going to go into that, but it basically means this demand response mode. All right, and then this port here is an HDMI port for the dongle. You'll notice that on the LXP5, we have some holes drilled in here, which are machine holes. Inside the box, there's a box with, once your cables are all in here, you have to feed it through a gland, and you plug them in, and then the cover goes on here. It's very important that you put this cover on. A lot of guys will say, yeah, but I'm not putting the machine outside, so why do I have to put the cover on there? This machine is completely sealed. It's airtight, and the only way that an insect can get inside this machine is through here. And trust me, we've had machines come back for repairs. They say, oh, I don't know, a puff of smoke came out there, and we did nothing. We open up the machine, and we found a gecko inside here. It's killed itself. It's committed suicide across the battery terminals. So that cover is to prevent any dust or any moisture or any water, but unless water can flow upwards. But it's mainly to protect the machine from dust and also from insects and little geckos from going inside there. So that can screw on, the dongle can screw on as well. This here is your DC isolator for your PV in the on and the off position. We've had some installers. Remember, the SNA does not come with a DC isolator. So guys, if they've installed 1,000 SNAs, they put in one of these, and then they will call tech support and say, my PV is connected. I've measured on the junction box. I've got DC voltage there. I've measured the end of my MC4 connectors, but there's nothing coming through on the machine. We say, okay, just go there and put your hand underneath, and you feel that rotary switch, turn it on. Aha, now we have power. It's got a DC isolator, and the DC isolator is for both the positive and the negative. The LXP5 comes with a dual MPPT, a dual input MPPT. So remember, it's a 5 kilowatt machine, but it has an 8 kilowatt MPPT. So you can put 4 kilowatts per string. I always recommend that you go 10% less. So in other words, put in maximum 7.2 kilowatts. Now, some people may argue, but why do you have a 5 kilowatt inverter that can only ever use 5 kilowatts of PV, but you have 7.2 or 8 kilowatts of PV on the roof? It's quite simple, because the LXP5 has the ability to, number one, supply the load at 5 kilowatts, and any extra PV that you have goes to charging the batteries. So if you have a look at machines that already have more than 5 kilowatts installed, you'll see that at the start of the day, when it's supplying the load and charging the batteries, the curve climbs, and the minute the batteries are charged, it will flatline and then taper off at the end of the day. So that's why this machine has a higher input on PV. As the same goes for the SNA5, as well as the LXP10 and 12. It's so that because we have a separate DC charger from PV for the battery. All right, cool feature here, like I said earlier on, comparing this with the SNA5. The SNA5, it's got the chocolate blocks, or the blocks where you have to feed the wires through and wire them into the machine. With the LXP5, it comes with MC4 connectors, and the MC4 connectors are supplied complementary inside the top tray. So you simply wire your PV wires onto that, plug it into here, and you're good to go. We've color-coded the DC terminals for the battery, as well as the boots and shrouds that go over here, so that you can't get it wrong, right? So if you are using a standard color cable, like we've seen some installations where the guys are using all blue or all black, you can't get it wrong, you know. So just make sure that you use your multimeter to measure your DC. You should get, if you put red on positive and black on negative, you should get a positive reading on the readout. If you get a negative reading, then it simply means that your colors are wrong. So make sure that your polarity is correct when you go inside here, and put the shrouds on as well as the rubber boots, because that's also what keeps this moisture free. Right. So that's all that we can say about the machine itself. It's quite a handy machine to
I can see the heat sink.
Yeah. So you can see the heat sink. And the nice thing about the LXP5 is that you'll notice that it's got no mounting holes in it, because inside the top tray, there's also a mounting bracket. So you simply mount the bracket on the hole. It's got hooks in it, and the hooks will go through the fins here, and it'll hang on those two bolts there. And then on the one side there, you have a locking bolt, which is it'll be a single tapered Allen screw. So that once the machine is on the wall, you simply put the locking bolt in there, and it can't be knocked off by accident. And then, as we said earlier on, if you fit it with a power gem, which is our or a high five rack mount.
It's on all Hiner range, no matter it's a high-five loose modules or the wall mount power gem, or later the power gem plus, or any new models that are coming.
Yeah, you can go.
I think later we can show the monitor.
Yeah.
On the screen.
So shall we while we're doing that, shall we do the 10 as well and the 12? Okay,
why not?
Cool. All right, so here we have the 10 kilowatt. You'll notice the difference between the 10 and the 12. And I'm just going to add as a side note, the 10 has changed in design, right?
Yes.
When will we should be shipping out the new 10s once these are finished?
I think not as soon as the 6K. We probably need another 3 months to ship the new version of the 5K and 10K together to the country.
So what can you tell us about the 10K that's different? I know 5K has changed, where it has a touch screen, a color touch screen, right? The 10, what has changed between this 10 and the new 10?
Because, you know, when we did the design of the 10 and 12, it's actually very similar design, where the cost of the PCB board or the design inside is actually on a higher level manufacturing cost. And then later, when as time goes, we were using these two models in the market, and we decided we can do a better cost of this design. So the 12 will remain the same design, and people can still use them. But for this unit, we just found a new way to do the design, and then the manufacturing costs are significantly dropped. So we decided we want to introduce a new version which has the exactly same power rated, but with a better cost. So people can actually buy a 10K with exactly the same function, but with a lower cost.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here's an interesting question. What if we have a customer that's already has a 10 kilowatt, this one installed, and a year later he wants to parallel another machine and only the new one is available?
I think we can parallel the old one and the new ones in the same time, because the software inside is the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have thought about that.
Yeah. It only matters to the functions actually relates to the software. Yeah. That is why actually when you want to parallel the 6K and the 5K S9 model in later stage, it is still possible because we share the same software. But if you pair a 5K with 6K, you kind of waste the 6K a little bit.
Because it downgrades to a 5.
Yes.
Okay.
So you can still parallel the 10K old one and the new one because the software is exactly the same.
Okay. And will that be the same for the old LXP5s? Because really?
I think this one, the 5K, I need to double check because the UPS output
different.
power is actually increased.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. All right. So with a 10 kilowatts, many of you guys have installed this one already, and the 12. We can talk about the external, also pressed aluminium cover pressed aluminum chassis. There is no mild steel in this machine. The machine comes with knockouts at the bottom. So, and we supply all of the glands that go in here. Every knockout that you see has a gland in the box. If your box does not come with a gland, it simply means, and they're all bundled in a pack. They bubble wrapped. So if there are glands missing, it simply means that somebody's lost them, but it's definitely not us. Right. So here your cables will feed through the glands. They'll go inside this machine. We don't have open at the moment, but I'm going to open up the 12 so you can see exactly what it looks like inside. The inside of this machine is very similar to this one. It's just that the PV inputs are slightly different. So here we have the LXP12 has the screen inside the lid. And what I like about this one is that when we do LCD updates, it simply means that we can plug an SD card in there, and we can do the LCD update on here. This one, the LCD updates are a little bit different because we have to take the cover off. And taking the cover off means the warranty sticker comes off as well. The LCD updates can be done remotely, but we need very strong Wi-Fi to do that because the files are big and it can take up to anywhere between 3 and 24 hours to do. But anyway, that's something else. Right, so let's have a look inside. We'll do the 12. The 12 and the 10, same design, pressed aluminum chassis, pressed aluminum covers with corrosion-free bolts. All of the boards inside are what I call tropicalized, meaning that they've been coated with a layer of corrosion protection. And even the new SNA 5 and the 6, it comes with extra protection because we've got to make sure that we don't have damage or corrosion to the boards over years, because if we're going to be issuing a 10-year warranty on these machines, we have to be sure that the boards are going to run the distance, right? So the LXP12 comes with it has 4 PV inputs because the MPPT1 has 2 inputs. So in other words, you got positive one plus. So you can see there. So this has got a much bigger, a higher current MPPT, and then you've got PV2 and PV3. And the unique thing about the 12, for those of you who have installed 12 and the 10, you'll notice that the PV connector block is different. This one, you simply put your screwdriver in there and you twist it. It'll lift up that gate, and you have to. We always recommend that you lug the ends of your PV cable. So you lug the end and you put a screwdriver in there. It'll lift up the gate. You push it in and it'll drop down. And that goes for all of the PV strings. On the 10, it's different because they've got the connector block with a screw in. All right. This is your interface board here. It's very well marked out, and it's also labeled on the side there just in case you need to, you need to be sure. Also has your top row of dips for the region, and the bottom one is for your parallel. Here you can also see a layout of the connector blocks, the RJ45 blocks. I noticed that on the newer machines, the DRM port has been taken out, so the government has no means of connecting to these machines. All right, then right next to that, under this cover here, you have the battery connection terminals. You'll notice that these are quite beefy, and also it's not in this particular machine because it's a dummy machine, but the negative has the buzz bar is fused, or it's a rated. I think you can't overcharge, or it's got protection on the one line, which is quite a good thing. And a very important thing, guys, to note is that when you fit your battery cables to this, you must remember that this is brass, but it's been nickel plated, right? You have to put nickel plated connectors on nickel, and that is purely for a scientific purpose. I'm not going to go into that now, but the most important thing is that to use in the book, in the manual that we supply with the machines, there's a recommended torque setting for these. Make sure that you torque these down correctly. I know not everybody has a torque wrench or sets torque settings on their drivers, but it is handy to have because a loose connection can run very, very hot. The ports are also adequately marked so that you do not cross or switch your polarity around on the battery. Right. This port here is the Gen port, and it's one of my favorites because did you know that the 12 and the 10 has a smart load function? What is that? Well, I'll tell you what it is. So the Gen port can be used for 3 functions. It can be used either as a generator input, or it can be used as an AC coupled input. So an AC coupled input means that you could run, for instance, you could use the N-phase microinverters, which puts out
any on-grid inverters.
Yeah.
Yeah. macro or not.
Yeah. So, but I'm going to give an example, like for instance, the microinverter, like
Yes.
the N-phase, which fits underneath your solar panels, and it puts out an AC feed. The AC feed can go inside here, and you can enable your AC. You can enable your AC coupling function. The same thing with if you're using a grid-tied inverter like a Sunny Boy, whatever other brand. I'm not going to give them airtime on our show, but a grid-tied inverter that is purely
So
PV.
the gym port, when it works with the AC coupling function, it just exactly the same what this model does.
Yes.
See?
Yes. Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here you can fit your microinverter, you can fit your grid-tied inverter here, but you have to enable the feature on the app, which is the smart load feature. So you can either enable it as an AC couple, or you can enable it as a generator input, or you can enable it as a smart load port. And I'm going to get to the smart load port in a minute. So for the generator function, if you enable it as a generator function, then you can only use it as an input port. Means you can connect a generator to it. We always recommend that the sizing of the generator is 1.25% or 125% higher than the machine itself. So for a 12 kilowatt, you just go 12 kilowatts, add 125%. That'll tell you how big your generator must be. I'm going to just suck a number out of the sky and say 15 kilowatts. So a 15 kilowatt generator will be ideal on here. And the reason is that when the generator is running, when there is no utility, the generator has to be big enough to, number one, charge the batteries and take load. If there is PV available, then the PV will go directly to the battery and the generator will charge load. We have to do that because to protect the generator, generators cannot stand or tolerate backfeed power. Then we have a puff of smoke and an angry customer. So we we don't do that, right? So that's when you use it as a generator port. If you use it as a smart load, as a AC coupled port, you're going to put your N-phase or your grid-tied inverter feed into here. You enable the function, and basically, especially with the it means that you can increase the size of PV on your roof, because the 12 kilowatt can take a maximum of 18 kilowatts of power. But if you have a much bigger roof and you have your grid-tied inverter also feeding your loads, you can have the excess power coming in here to charge batteries, right? That's a cool feature. And did you know that the N-phase needs voltage to start, right? It needs a trigger voltage. So if you putting a microinverter on here, this does trigger microinverters to start with a pulse of power. Anyway, hashtag just saying. All right. And then also I forgot to point it out on the 5 kilowatt. Underneath the chassis of the 5 kilowatt, we have the earthing lug or the earthing point. It's very important, guys. You'll see it here. It's there. Every machine of ours has an earthing point. Very important to earth your machines. I cannot stress the importance of earthing enough. Run your earthing. You need to earth the living daylights out of your installation. Earth the rails. Earth everything so that you can, it basically makes, number one, it makes it SANS compliant, and number two, it makes it safe. Okay. So you're earthing your battery, chassis, everything that's to do with your installation where it requires earthing, do it. But especially on the machines, we need to do that because we can create damage to the machines if the earthing is not done correctly. So we've got an earthing point there for the chassis. We've also got a common earthing point inside the machine here, right? And then on here, we have quite beefy terminals on the 12 as well as the 10, which comes with your load, which is to the load, and your grid supply, right? And once again, you got to take care to use the correct lugs and also torque them down correctly. And you must remember that earlier on, I said to you that the 12 and the 10 has got a smart load function. So what does that mean? We've heard guys talk about our competitors having a auxiliary port. Well, did you know that this machine can do that as well? And how do we do it? We do it through the same port. If you activate your smart load function, it simply means that under the smart load settings, and we'll show you that a little bit later, is that when there is adequate PV and adequate battery, and you set those parameters, it simply means that when it's load shedding, you can have load coming out of the EPS as well as load coming out of gen port or power supply coming out. And the only time it'll put power out on the smart load port or the gen port is when the parameters are met. In other words, when there's sufficient PV and sufficient battery. So you can say, my starting SOC on the battery is 90 and the end SOC is 40. So if it's during the day and it's load shedding and you've connected your on here as an out, you've activated the smart load port, and on the output you have maybe your pool pump, your underfloor heating, and some other feature that you see it as an essential, but it's sort of a non-essential essential. Then as long as there's enough solar and as long as there's enough battery, it will put out power here and power those devices. And then obviously when the SOC is reached or the PV goes off, then it'll stop powering this, which is quite a cool thing to have. But just remember that the combined output of your EPS plus your smart load equals 12 kilowatts. You
No
can't,
more than no more than 12
no more
kilowatts.
than 12. So you can't have 12 here and another 12 there, right?
Yeah.
It has to be the two together equals 12. All right, so between the 10 and the 12, remember the LXP5 had the DC isolator underneath. This one's got a handy DC isolator on the side. And it also has a little lockout button here, right? So you can, if you're working on it in the off position, you can lock out the PV simply by putting that in there, putting a lockout pin there when you're doing work on the DC side. Both machines come with a handy lifting handles, which they tuck away like somebody's ears. But these are used for, be careful behind you, but these are used for when you're mounting the machine. This one is quite heavy. It's 50 kilograms. So unless you drickus duplessis, then, you know, and you can lift it up. And trust me, there are guys in South Africa, especially the boys that come from the Vrystaat, they can pick these machines up quite easily and hang them on a wall.
What about the coming Power Gen Plus?
The Power Gen Plus.
14.3
Oh,
kilowatt hour.
Trust me, there are guys in South Africa that can lift it.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the cool thing about this. But if you have a look underneath here, you'll see that the 12 and the 10 comes with cooling fans. The cooling fans only operate when the PV, especially on the 12, when the PV or the output function of the machine exceeds 6 kilowatts, you'll find the fans come on. The fans do not blow air inside the machine. Underneath here or inside this box, there is a massive heatsink, and the fans simply cool the heatsink. We've got thermocouples inside here as well as inside the machine. And I'll show you a little bit later on the settings page where you can see the temperature of the various thermocouples. So when it reaches a set temperature, these fans will come on and they will cool the heatsink. And
the fan is actually IP67 rated.
Are they?
Yeah.
Really?
Because remember our hybrid is all IP65 to ensure a solid 5-year warranty. And then when we developed the new model of the 10 and 12, we decided we need to use an even better rated fans to make sure the heat dissipation and the cooling are guaranteed at the same time, but you must use a better and quiet fans.
Okay, that's cool. All right, so shall we go to the settings?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So you can share the screen again, and then I'll continue with that. Yes. After you heard. Yeah, we're doing a Zoom training.
I'll take care of the customers. You can share the screen.
Okay. So microphone is here now?
Here.
Okay.
On the phone.
Oh, on the phone. All right, I'll put it in. All right, guys. So now we're back to the shared screen. I'm just going to be very aware of the time. I know we've got 1 minute left. I'm going to check the chat group to see any questions. What we will do is, if we run out of time, which I think we are going to, we will definitely attend to the questions in the chat, and we will put those up. We will answer those questions individually. Right. So when we have a look here, how do I remove this? Sorry, Ma, how do I remove this thing? Okay. All right. So you can see on the shared screen now, power backup, always enable it. Seamless EPS switching, I suggest you enable it. It changes the switching time from 20 milliseconds to 10 milliseconds. Microgrid is a handy one to have. That's especially if you've built an installation where you do not have grid, but you have a generator as your main power supply. If you activate the microgrid, then it tells the machine on any of the LXPs that there is a generator feeding the AC input, and there will be absolutely zero leak current on the AC input line. All right, PV off-grid. This you will enable if you're running a site where it's an off-grid site, or a site that's got no batteries, but it's got PV. So by enabling this here, this will allow you to output power in the case of solar, but no battery. Just remember that the reactive power on solar is a lot slower than what it is on battery. So always make sure that your sizing of your PV is much bigger than what your loads are. All right, grid sellback. You guys are very familiar with this. This is where you can sell power back to utility, and here you will set the power rating. For those of you who have the very famous Conlog meters that are so sensitive and you can't change them, and even though you've disabled that and you've set the grid cell back to 0, you can go to the CT offset here and set it to a negative value. And am I correct in saying that we've now changed the value that you can go to minus 999 or something like that? What's the negative value you can go on the CT offset? It's
I think it even
1,000
to not 1,000, but
999.
999.
I think, yeah, because remember the one site we did was minus 700.
But I remember in S9 when you do the offset, it's usually about minus 200.
Yeah, but okay. So on the LXP, the value is higher. I will confirm that. All right, and then on the parallel settings, remember we've gone through that here. If you're doing a parallel setup, you can set it up as a single phase primary or a 3-phase primary, and then obviously your slaves will all be subordinates. Battery sharing, that's especially if you have more than one machine. More than one machine with batteries. I always recommend that you share the battery bank via a common DC bus. Just make sure that your cabling, the lengths of your cables, the internal resistance and all of that is good, so that you can have a shared battery. And especially when you do your parallel correctly, it means that the master will control the charging of the battery. So in other words, it might assign itself as the charger, or it might assign the slave as a charger, or it might even assign 2 slaves to charge. It's very uneven, but it does control the charging. Here you can also set the composed phase. This is for your 3-phase installations. On a single phase, it'll come out standard as phase R. But if you are especially you're doing an off-grid installation, where the machine cannot detect the phases automatically from the grid, then you have to assign each phase to the machine. In other words, which is the R phase, which is the S, and which is the T phase. And obviously you can change those around once you have a look at things like motors and things like that, where you need to change the direction of the motor. This feature here is it's a very, very cool feature. I like it on the LXP range. It's the max input power limitation. And basically what that means is that you can set it, for instance, on an LXP5, you can set that to the size of your breaker. So for instance, if your feed breaker is a 32 amp breaker, you simply go 32 amps times 230 volts. And that will tell you what your power limitation can be here. You set it, and what it'll do is it'll always make sure that the AC feed to the machine, including the throughput, right, will never exceed this value. Now remember that the 5 kilowatt can do 40 amps AC feed bypass current. The 12 kilowatt can do 90 amps, and the 10 I'm not really sure, but we can just check it up on the specifications. And then you set this limitation here to the value of your breaker, your feed breaker. And that means that when when you're running bypass loads and you're charging the battery off grid, the combined value of those 2 loads will never exceed whatever you put inside here. And that simply means that you don't get a nuisance tripping on your feed breaker. Here we have a CT direction reverse function. You remember the CT clamp comes with an arrow on there, and it annotates the direction of the flow of current from the utility or from supply to the machine. But we know that sometimes a DB, or the wiring behind the cover of the DB, can look like a rat's nest, or it's very tight to get into. And once you fit the CT, it's maybe a little bit difficult to unclip it and turn it around. You can simply leave it the way it is, and using this button here, you can reverse the direction of the CT. So that basically just tells our processor that the signal coming from the CT must be reversed. In other words, and then yeah, you know what I mean.
It's kind of a handy feature which saves numerous trips back to the site.
Correct. Yeah. So, and you'll know it that when the site goes live and it's busy charging the battery, but it shows that it's exporting. it's simply just have a look at the arrow. If it's the wrong way around and it's too much of a fuss to get the clamp off the cable, simply go here and switch the CT. All right. CT offset power. We spoke about this a little bit earlier. If
click on the question mark, you will see how low you can go.
minus 50.
That cannot be true.
No, this is the LXP5.
Okay.
Yeah. So on the CT offset, like Mama said, if you want to know what the feature does, and I know Joe's going to be updating these messages on the question marks, but if you want to know what the feature does, and if there's a blue question mark there, simply hover over it, and it'll tell you what the button will do. So if you've got that famous BEC23 conlog meter that doesn't stand for any nonsense, then you can simply do your CT offset here, just like you can do it on the SNA. But here you've got a much higher value on the LXP5. The neutral earth bonding, the feature is here, but it's not available on the older machines yet because we haven't, in that design, we haven't included the relay. So I'm not going to speak about that. The grid connect setting, I think we've gone through this in the training before, but this is purely where you as an installer can set. It comes pre-populated like this, and this is simply your connect time for when, so for instance, when the grid goes off, when the grid reconnects, it shows you how fast the machine will switch from off-grid to on-grid mode. And the other one is for the PV, for when it's, especially if you've got export to grid activated, it will show the delay time for switching for reconnecting. This will monitor your grid low and your grid high voltage. So in other words, if the grid voltage here or the frequency goes out of these parameters, then the machine will switch to off-grid mode. So some of you might be living in areas where the infrastructure is a bit old, so you get temperamental voltage fluctuations from the transformer in your area. You can set these values accordingly. This is a feature that's not available on the SNA, but on the LXP range, it definitely is available. All right, the charge settings works exactly the same as the SNA. Once you enable, if you enable a lead acid battery at the top, like this client has got here, then the lead acid settings become available here as well as down here, right? If I disable, if I choose lithium, then this particular block will fall away. You guys are very familiar with AC charge times. And I know that before on the older models, we used to have it where the clock ran from midnight to midnight. So in other words, you had to run it from 1 minute past midnight to 23:59. But I know that the firmware design engineers have changed that where we can now run the clock past midnight, right? So you can start at 5 in the afternoon. You can run it from 1700 to from 5 in the afternoon to the next day 6 in this block here. You can do that. And I'll just use it as an example. Yeah, I'm not going to change the settings on this guy's site, but you can do this. You can go from 5 in the afternoon to 6 the next morning. Before that never used to work, but now you can set your AC charging like that.
A lot of the folks didn't even realize they cannot do that, but because they always think they can do to cross the day. They didn't know they cannot previously, and now since we've already improved the software, so they never realized anything.
Oh, okay, yeah, but for the older folk like me that were around from the beginning, you know, where we didn't have this feature available, you can now set one time across midnight, and that works quite cool. And also remember that here you can set your charge rate as well as your charge level. This is only on the SNA, on the LXP5. On the LXP12, you can actually set the power in kilowatts, right? And then the charge first, this charge priority, it's got two functions. Number one, it's the charge priority for PV. So here, if I hover over the question mark, you will see that it tells you that this enable this mode, and the solar production charge will charge the battery first and then supply the load. And if there's surplus, it will feed it into the grid. So typically you would set this during sunlight hours. But did you know that if you disable your AC charging, right? So you never ever want to charge from grid. It means that the machine will use the battery. But you can block out the times here. If you put 24 hours in here, it will never use the battery. because it sees this as a charge feature as well.
Well, the inverter is under charge mode. It will not discharge at all, even it's on a higher level of SOC or voltage.
Yeah.
So either the AC charge or the charge first, meaning using the PV to charge first.
Yeah.
Regardless which one of them are active. So the battery will just stay there to be until the grid falls away.
Yeah, until the grid falls away. Yes, then this rule comes in here. The off-grid SOC comes in.
Yeah.
Right. So you can set your off-grid, your on-grid SOC cutoff, as well as your off-grid SOC cutoff. Right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to see if I can find a 12 kilowatt machine very quickly, because I know we were running about 11 minutes over time. So I'm just going to look for a 12 kilowatt machine so that we can go.
Go the device type.
This one here.
Oh yeah, right.
The hall's getting busy now, so I think the Wi-Fi is getting
a little bit slower.
Yeah. Where am I not pressing the right button on this?
But the South African telecom, the internet is not good anyway.
Really?
Yeah. So
we've been talking to no one.
No, they can hear.
Okay. Can you? Maybe I'm not clicking correctly. I want to go to that machine.
This one? Why? Oh, maybe it's here. It does not jump. How many times you click? This one? Are you sure to close this tab? This is the one you want?
Yeah, the 10. So
the 12.
Yeah, so can we move that up so that I can? Sorry guys, this is an Apple. I'm not. It's a fancy machine. All right, so here we've got a 10 and a 12K viewing page. So we're just going to do the read, and you can see that immediately the settings page is different to the 5, right? But a lot of them are the same, especially this particular section here. Yeah. The nice thing with the 10 and the 12 is that we've got the PV arc fault, but I'm going to check with Joe if this feature is available to the EU machines or it's still only for the US machines. PV arc and fault clear. I know that this one here, the RSD, that's the rapid shutdown device.
It's only available for the US.
For the US.
Yes.
Yeah, this one. Yeah. And the PV arc also for US or for EU.
PV arc is for US as well.
US only. Okay. So we were talking about the charging. Remember that with a 5 we set on percentage and power and SOC cutoff. Here we can actually set based on time as well as the charge power. Now remember earlier on we spoke about the smart load function. So this is where the smart load function comes into play. You can either enable your generator charge settings. And remember, by doing this, you can also make use of the dry contact port for the generator for switching on and off the generator based on the battery SOC or the voltage if your generator is fitted with a auto start and stop button. All right, then we have peak shaving. Do you think anybody's using this particular function in South Africa? Is this function available for us?
Yes,
I know in the US. Okay, so the peak function, unless you didn't know, did you know that you can limit the amount of power that your machine imports from the grid? So in other words, when PV is on and your loads are running, you can limit. So but basically what you can say is here, if we hover it over there, it tells you that you can set the maximum power that the inverter will draw from the grid. So in other words, if I set this, remember that this is in kilowatts, right? So if I set this to 2 kilowatts, it simply means that when PV is on, or is it PV and battery, but at any given time, the maximum power it will bring from the grid is 2. The rest of the power it will draw from battery and PV, right? And then you can obviously set your battery limitations here, and you can set the times during which you want your peak shaving to start. And the reason we put this function in here is, especially in Europe, they have different tariff times, so the customers can set their machines according to the different tariffs that are set by the utility. Then the AC coupling, remember we showed you in the video, we showed you that port, which is the smart load port. It's a gen port. If you activate it if you enable it here in AC coupling, it simply means that you can fit your microinverter or your grid-tied inverter to here, and it'll take the power in from there to charge the battery. All right, and then here's the cool one. You know, the other inverter manufacturer called it an auxiliary port. Ours is a smart load port, so we can put power out if you enable it. It simply means that you can set your start PV power, and you can also set the battery. In other words, when the battery is between these SOC range, then it will use the smart load port. It'll put out power, but only in load shedding mode. Sorry, when the grid is on, it still puts out power through that port.
But if you do not want use grid to take it, just disable this one, remember?
Yes. Yeah.
Because when you enabled it, this one, the grid always on, it means that if the ESCOM is on, it will always use the excess power to power the smart load, which is not necessarily the case that they want.
Okay.
So disable that.
Okay, cool. Right, guys, I know this has been a rush. It's been fantastic doing the show with Mau Mau. I mean, she's the star of the show. She's the star of just about everything. But let's just go quickly to the questions, and let's see if we can quickly answer some of the questions that you guys have put out here. Remember, give us a thumbs up, give us a like, or give us a dislike. Right, so I can hear yes. So a lot of it was about the thing which went out working now. Couldn't hear before. Greetings to all. When is the SNA 6000 going to be released?
Answer in that group.
Yeah, but remember we were waffling before the show started, so some people want to know. There's some people that didn't tune in. Yeah.
The fact is that we already shipped out, and the results is really depending on South African customs and the real system.
Okay, so there you have it from Mau Mau. The machines have shipped already.
Yeah.
The containers are on the water. They will be docking in the port of Durban, I think, and Cape Town.
Yes.
And it depends purely on Portnet and Transnet on how fast they can clear the vessels and get them out to our importer, and then they will get the distribution going to the various channels. Right. So Mau Mau says before June. Yeah. So I think she's being hopeful. Maybe just slide the messages up so we can see what other messages are. Roughly cost-wise, we can't discuss costs with you.
It's already, I mean, the models we explain are already, except the 6K, the new 6K, all the 10 and 12 and the 5K hybrid and the Power Gem already supplying in the market for quite a while. So you can get the local quote from your suppliers already.
Okay. Keegan is using the forum to promote his business.
Oh yeah.
We see you, Keegan. All right, and then everybody else is giving us. I think. Thank you for the short training. It's
no question today.
No questions today. I think it's you.
Why?
Being so informative. There's no questions. So give us a double thumbs up. Give us a lot of likes.
But I want to, before the show ends, I want to also log into some of the Heine stations so you can explain what it can do.
Okay, so now you're gonna have to log out of there and you come and take a seat here.
Well, we're on the one of the Heine station here.
Okay, so why don't you do the talking then? Explain.
Okay. I hope you guys can see the screen. Here you can see, if you're familiar with the monitor, then you will know this is a new section, which is only available for Heine battery. You can see almost all of the details. This is the first one will be the master battery, and then it can go on and on to show all the battery details, including the voltage, the current, and even the cell level temperature and voltage monitor, and also the cycles. So almost everything you want to know about the battery it comes with this monitor for free. So you do not need to buy a external Wi-Fi module for the battery anymore. It all comes included in the box and free. This is a remote monitoring of the battery. When it comes to the settings, you also get the premium features with China battery. So you've already know that you can update the inverter, including the SMA and hybrid inverters. But now you can also remote update the battery, the China battery here in 2 minutes. So we will, if you guys not in China support group, I strongly recommend you to join, because China support offer the timely services in the group and also offer the firmware updates, news, sharing the skills for installation. So you can join the group and get the newest firmware. Then you upload here and then click on the update button. It will just update the master battery in 2 minutes. And then the master battery will automatically update all the slave battery. Remember, China battery, you can parallel up to 32 of them. So if you do have a system like that, you only need to update the master battery, and then the master battery will update the rest of the 31 battery automatically in about 2 to 5 minutes. So it's very easy for installers. A lot of them, as long as the cable connections are done properly on site, they will never need to go back to that set again. And other than remote function, you can also remote restart the battery here on the remote set page. Where you scroll down to the bottom, you can see a battery section here. You also hit the red button, and then you can restart the battery module. And depends on how many battery you paralleled here. So in this case, we have 2. But if you have more battery paralleled, then the page will show you more buttons. See which one you want to restart. So it's very easy for installers to just remote control all the battery functions we have. A lot of our installers were struggling with other batteries because sometimes the battery over discharged, and then they need to go back to that set again to physically restart the battery so it can be charged up. But with LuxPower and China, you just control everything remotely. So, and also this restart button is also available for end users. Previously, it was not available. It was only open for installer and above accounts. But China Group listened to what users say every day. So they suggested us to open this to end user, and we did. So end users, installers, distributors, if you want to remote control your battery, you can just do it on the web portal. That's all.
That's all. Wonderful. Thank you. So if you stop the sharing and then we switch the camera here.
Okay.
The camera. And all right, guys. So that brings us to the end of a very long show. Thank you very much for bearing with us, for being a little bit late. And for those of you guys who joined us later than normal, and you missed out the beginning, remember that the show's being recorded. So you can, one of our ladies in the office will put out the recording, or they will make the recording available. Remember that the Chinese nation has shut down for Chinese New Year. So we got to be respectful of that. It's going to be, communication will be a little bit slower, but there are people manning the lines. So just bear with us, but the recording will go out. So guys, thank you very much for joining.
Before we end, Andy, I want to also introduce the solar reward program.
Yeah. Okay, why don't you do that?
So we've been spreading the news in the groups, but here
over and over and over and over again.
You must join installers and distributors. You must enjoy and join the installer program. Remember the last year we did the event very successfully, and we had winners to win the machines. And this year we make event even bigger. So simple steps. You just follow the registration process. If you've done the program last year, you automatically enroll this year. If you're new to the game, register yourself, emailing to our marketing team, get registered. And you remember today? Oh,
I always press the wrong button.
okay. Remember both the installations to share on the social media and also participating in the training, either online or the physical ones. You get the credits. So don't forget to send the screenshots of your training attending today to the emails or to just tag us in the groups, then get your credits written. And about the registration process, you just email the installer program at LuxpowerTek, and then you get registered, then start sharing your stories about the installation or about the pictures to any of the social media, the Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, LinkedIn. But remember, if you get to do the videos in YouTube or TikTok, you actually get more credits. So make the most use of your installation. But I know that a lot of the installers, they're too
Camera shy?
yeah, they're not good at social media. So talk to your wife, talk to your sisters, to your lady friends, anyone.
Your dog.
Yeah, to your dog. Yeah, anyone that they can handle the social media well. Just let them start. And if you have any questions, text us in the groups. We will answer the questions. And I remember beginning of the program, they want you to email all the details of the posts to that email. But now you don't even do that, because once you post, we have stalkers. We will stalk you on the social media and get your credits done.
Yeah.
So it will just make it a lot easier for installers to go.
Okay.
And we encourage all the installers, which does China and LuxPower inverters, to join the game to win the machines end of the year, and even a complimentary tour to China and Lux factory.
Oh, cool.
Yes. So if you haven't enrolled yourself, text us in the groups or email us in this address. We'll get you sorted. And if you have any questions, I don't know how to do this, I don't have anything that we can support, just let us know. We just wish that you don't waste your installations. Make the installations count for every credits, and end of the year, we want to show some gratitude to all of the installations of the year, and we hope to see you in China.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. All right, so I'm Andy, and
Meow meow.
you're Meow Meow. Together we are LuxPower, and we say goodbye from Janata's show here in Madrid, and thank you very much for joining our show. Goodbye.
Bye bye. Adios.
Adios. You need to stop that now. Oh, hola, hola, hola.